Coming up on AVANT Technology Insights with Ken Presti.
I think it's literally put everybody into kind of a work from home or a work from anywhere experiment, literally without much notice.
The use of technologies like video and unified communications as a service are dramatically on the upswing as companies struggle to define a new normal amidst a global pandemic. We at Avant, as well as our trusted advisors, have gotten a boatload of questions on this subject, and through this podcast and other venues, we've been doing our best to pass this dialogue on to you. Welcome to Avant Technology Insights. I'm your host, Ken Presti. The link between solving business challenges and cutting-edge technologies has become tighter and more complex than ever before. In this podcast series from Avant Research and Analytics, we help enterprise decision makers sort through the business case, the value, the challenges, and ultimately the bottom line of technology adoption. So listen to us at your desktop, take us in the car, tune in from the commuter train, or download us at the gate. You'll find us on Apple, Spotify, and Google, as well as in more than 25 countries listening to us right now and available across the globe. My guest today spent 9 years at Google and later launched a speech recognition startup called TalkIQ, which was acquired by Dialpad 18 months ago. He finds UCaaS to be a fascinating technology space, especially now, given what's going on in the world relative to COVID-19. He's now the Chief Strategy Officer of Dialpad. I want to welcome to the program Dan O'Connell. Dan O'Connell, Chief Strategy Officer of Dialpad, thanks much for being here today. We've got a lot of ground to cover in a very short time. Certainly UCaaS is in the spotlight these days, given the global pandemic that's currently underway and the need for people to work from home at a greater level than they've ever had it done before. So there's a lot happening there. My first thing that I'd like to ask you is that as you guys put your strategy together in this space, what are the companies that you think are best suited? And I'm thinking that not in terms of actual company names, but in terms of specific markets, verticals, things along that line. What types of companies do you think are really well suited to working in this sort of an environment?
Yeah, so I think obviously the current environment has caught everybody by surprise, and we've seen an influx of interest pretty much across the board. Some specific industries have stuck out in terms of realtors and title companies. Obviously, anybody that has had an inside sales team that is or a support team, and those teams are working in the office, and now they suddenly find themselves looking at their current stack and saying, we've now got 100 employees or 1,000 employees that now need to figure out how to work and effectively sell or support customers remotely. And I think that's creating some really interesting and problematic challenges for these businesses. I think it's literally put everybody into kind of a work from home or a work from anywhere experiment, literally without much notice.
What are some of the challenges that you just mentioned? What are some of the things that maybe we haven't run across before that you see other companies that are currently grappling with these types of issues?
Yeah, I think you spend a bunch of time in the UCaaS space, and I think even some of the kind of the most simple, or I say not simple, the most common problems would be, if you have an on-prem stack and suddenly you have everybody that's coming to the office every day, well, suddenly that on-prem stack isn't going to work remotely terribly well. Being able to provision new employees, being able to scale up or scale down, whatever your business might be going through. Mobile applications has been another interesting piece that's kind of popped up with, whether you provide a mobile application and having that information actually sync to a CRM. So obviously, if you have remote employees, if that information isn't syncing, they're using their mobile devices as opposed to using a mobile app, provided by a cloud telephony provider. Those things start to break down. Making sure that video is part of the platform. I think everybody is suddenly realizing that, hey, if you're not showing up in the office every day, you don't have those face-to-face interactions. Those hallway conversations are lost. So making sure that there's a platform that provides that connection, both from a team view, but also just a peer-to-peer video is also incredibly important.
Are you finding the use of video to be more pervasive than it was even a few weeks ago? One of the things I've noticed over the course of time is that going back before all this started, video was there, it was available, but a lot of people never bothered to turn their cameras on. But now that seems to be changing a little bit. People are tending to turn their cameras on more. Are you seeing that in the video space? And are there other applications in the UCAS environment that you see getting a similar boost as a result of all this in terms of usage?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you can't see me, but I have a smile on my face and let out a little chuckle, which is, before, to your point, and I would, I did the same thing. I would join a video and sometimes turn off the video. And now it's amusing that you will join a video chat, and it might be a multi-party video with 10 people on it, and every single person will have their video on. So I do think this kind of the environment that we're going through is actually going to have pretty profound long-term implications on how we think about remote work, how we think about working from anywhere, but also how we use these tools. And I think they'll set kind of a new threshold or a new bar for people. Other things that are popping up a little bit more, just across what we're seeing in terms of engagement, is also just messaging and text messaging. So an increase in that in terms of just communicating with people as they're out and about. Again, some of this seems probably not terribly profound, but people are trying to figure out just easier ways to communicate. Right? People are not in the office. And so leveraging video chat more, turning on the video, texting more across the platform. Those are things that we're seeing pretty profound increases for.
Tell me a little bit more about key differentiators and how channel partners, trusted advisors, and customers should evaluate those. The reason I ask that question is because differentiators can shift very quickly. And one of the things that I see particular to the UCAS space is that when a technological differentiator comes up and a company puts that out onto the market, it's usually pretty quick for their competitors to come to the market with something very close to it or even identical, which makes it hard to sustain a competitive differentiator over the long haul, at least from a technology perspective. How would you look at differentiators from the standpoint of an enterprise decision maker in order to make sure that you're making the right choice with respect to these solutions?
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic question. The way I would answer that is, I think right now, the UCAS space is going through a pretty significant transformation, and a transformation in two ways. A transformation for moving things on-prem to the cloud, which I think everyone sees. And I think the next transformation happens is with is really around voice and speech recognition and NLP, meaning your phone line goes from being just a way to connect with people to now being a way that you can better inform and understand literally in real time what's happening within your business. You can use speech recognition and NLP to suddenly get a live transcription, route calls in all sorts of different ways. That is a technology that allow those technologies, speech rec and NLP, truly allow you to build differentiators that are defensible if you own them. If you're going to go build on top of an API provider, I think the challenges of building technologies on top of APIs is you don't necessarily always control your own destiny. And if you're in a competitive market and everyone's using the same APIs, then everyone starts building the same features. They start to look the same. I do think there's going to be the next couple of years, there's a significant amount of timeline for businesses to build key differentiators that are difficult to replicate, that allow them to create a lead or maintain a lead. And I think that really comes down to why smaller startups sometimes beat the larger startups in the world. Is they can move faster, they can build faster, they have to be more focused, simply because they perhaps have less capital to work with.
So, if they can find a differentiator that's difficult to match, what exactly would that look like? How would you build a differentiator? Because I've had a number of these conversations over the course of the last few weeks, and we've had this very discussion about something new comes up in terms of a feature, and then somebody else will come and copy it over time. When you think of it in terms of building a differentiator that's not going to be easily replicated, what exactly what makes that more difficult to replicate than something else?
Sure. Let's take speech recognition, for example. So speech recognition for anybody that's listening would be taking audio and transcribing it to text. Now, if you were going to go and say, hey, I run a telecommunications business, and if I could understand what's happening in those calls in real time, that would be really interesting for a business. I could um, I can map out sentiment. I could route calls specific ways. I can provide suggested answers. So there's all sorts of opportunities of things you could go and build. Now, if you said, "Hey, I believe in that," and that's a differentiator of features we could build, there's two ways to go and start doing transcription. One is I could use an API. Google provides an API. Amazon provides an API. The second option would be to go and do this yourself. And if you tried to do it yourself, that initially might sound really overwhelming. The difference is if you use a cloud speech API, you have to think of those businesses like a Google and Amazon are solving on literally at a horizontal level, which is they're trying to do speech recognition for literally everybody, for the general population, for consumers. It's not terribly specific to somebody in the medical field. It may not be specific to somebody in the finance world. And what I mean by that is every industry in the world has very specific jargon. They have different product names, they have different competitor names that don't show up in the English dictionary. And so suddenly a differentiator of doing speech recognition yourself comes with the ability to accurately transcribe and identify information that isn't going to show up in a generic language model. Um, and that then comes down to the telecommunication companies suddenly have access to all of this unstructured data. And this is a little bit of a long ramble, but what I mean by that is all of these conversations suddenly become increasingly important in being able to train your speech recognition models and do this yourselves.
Okay, and let's take that very point one step further and look at the integration piece of it. Because as you were talking about that, I thought, okay, there's obviously an integration component to this, and some vendors and some products may interoperate better than others. How does that fit in?
Yeah, so integrations are a key piece, I think, of any system that you use, whether it's you're trying to suss out what UCAS provider to work with, or whether it's a CRM system or a marketing analytics tool, whatever it might be. Integrations have always been top of mind for us. So making sure that we integrate with the leading CRM providers, so um, Microsoft and Salesforce and HubSpot and Zendesk. But really, it's making sure that we don't want to have just a blanket slate of integrations. We want to make sure that we're picking the right integrations, that we're picking the integrations that people are using most often in the market, but then making sure that when we build those integrations, that they truly do what people want and that they're really, really deep in terms of their utility and functionality. Because I think a lot of times you can go and you can say, go to a website for somebody and say, hey, we've got 1,500 integrations, but those integrations might be really basic. They might not actually do what you want them to do.
To what extent are people looking for bundled services? You know, something that they get all in one shot, probably from the company that's actually doing the initial integration of the UCAS solution. Are they doing that, or are they looking to cherry pick based on their needs and their own individual circumstances?
Yeah, I think it actually, you see some segmentation in the market across that. Enterprise businesses that we work with, and we define enterprise here at Dialpad as anything that's 1,000 or more employees. Those businesses tend to look for best in breed in terms of software, and aren't necessarily looking to consolidate stacks or have something do everything. The SMB and mid market, which again would be anything less than 1,000 employees, our SMB segment would be 1 employee to 50 employees, just for context.
Hmm.
Those businesses also seem to be going through a transformation of consolidating their stacks, which then comes into, I want to have one provider, and I want that provider to do um, you know, three different things that I'm trying to work with. Over the past year alone, 70% of our deals in the SMB mid market space are multi SKU. And that is a leading indicator for us that people are buying or are buying multiple products, but more importantly, are looking to consolidate their technology stack.
How important is it that um, the desktop telephones that are already in place be able to integrate with the chosen UCAS system? Are they looking for that? Are they looking for soft phones? Um, what are the What's the general need there?
Yeah, Ken, you should be an investor. It's one of the most common questions. So some of our investors, our potential investors or kind of board ask us. It's funny about, like 15% of the deals we do come with desk phones attached to them. And I think it's a little bit, honestly, it's a little bit of a safety blanket, which is, if you always had a desk phone, I think it's one of those things that's there. But once you get used to using a soft phone and doing things through your laptop or your iPad or your mobile device, people get pretty comfortable with things. It's funny, we're on
Mhm.
this, we're on Zencaster right now, doing a podcast, and it's pretty amazing that like we're using a headset and basically a laptop to do this. And so I think it's a little bit of a safety blanket. Some people really want to have their desk phone, and then once they get to you, once they are forced to kind of interact on a soft phone or interact with the system on their mobile device, they start to switch over.
What about from a gotcha perspective? When people are looking to make this kind of a move, obviously, in any kind of a technological realm, things can go well or things can go less than perfectly, and that no matter how hard we try, there's always some of that. When things go wrong in this space, from the perspective and within the visibility of the enterprise decision maker, where is it most likely to hit the skids?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to deployment. Um, and what I mean by that, again, not a terribly profound statement by yours truly, but a lot of it comes down to communication. And I think at times, look, phones are and video and text are business critical to businesses. And you think of the current environment of what we're all facing right now. Like if your phone system doesn't work or your video system doesn't work or your call center is down, like that is mission that will kill your business, internally and externally. Um, when things go wrong, it usually comes down to communication and in the deployment side. And that is making sure that, we've got a fantastic professional services team. We've got a lot of redundancies. We've got ways to manage and manage the entire business through the cloud for the administrator. But the times, people have issues across the board in this space. I would say usually comes down to deployment. And it's just one of those things.
All right, great feedback all the way around. Dan O'Connell, Chief Strategy Officer at Dialpad, thanks so much for being our guest today. There's a lot happening in the UCaaS space. Some of it is just native to the industry, and some of it is because of the unique times in which we're currently living. So, thank you for taking time out for this discussion. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, Ken, it was great. Great to join you. Thanks again for having me.
You've been listening to Avant Technology Insights with Ken Presti, featuring information and opinions on how key technologies can be leveraged to solve business problems. Avant Technology Insights is a service of Avant Communications, an IT decision-making platform for next-generation technologies. All opinions expressed are those of the guests and the host. For more information, please visit www.goavant.net. That's www.goav as in victory, ant.net. For Avant Research and Analytics, this is Ken Presti.